Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello? We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Rossifari podcast, and specifically Rossifari Zoo News, where we're going to take you all through the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. This is a crowdsourced Zoo News program, so if you see anything that you think would be worth being on the podcast, go ahead and send that to me. You can email it, rossifaripod@gmail.com, or tag me in it on the socials, at Rossifari, everywhere except for on the TikTok machine, where it's at Rossifaripod. And if you do that, I will say your name at the end of the episode. Yay, exciting stuff. So we are back to our normal format this week after 2 weeks of departures, but I want to thank all of you who reached out to say how much you appreciated the last 2 weeks. I'm probably going to mix up the format like that, from time to time, but for now it's Zoo News as usual, and that includes me telling you about my life at the top. So, as most of y'all know, this week is highlighted by the absolutely insane trip that I'm on for the podcast. Tanganyika Wildlife Park flew Zoe and I out for a couple of days of incredible experiences. And y'all, this place has lived up to the hype. I am recording this episode on Wednesday this week, meaning we've spent 2 of our 3 days here, and it's already mind-blowing the amount of cool stuff we've gotten to see. So today, I'm going to start this episode with a quick rundown of the experiences we have had so far. And okay, so right off the bat, I have to tell you that the place that Tanganyika housed us at is this insane mansion right on the property. It's called the Hawkins Estate, and it is huge. You can actually Airbnb it, and when I was looking at the price, it currently goes for $1,500 a night, so yeah. The kitchen has 3 stoves, a convection oven, a full bar. You get the idea. The master bath has 2 showers, a jacuzzi tub, and 2 toilets. And that's just the master bath, which is one of, I believe, 12 in the building. The downstairs it has this huge bar and couches and a big screen and a pool table and posters of movies like Avengers Endgame and Star Wars Episode 7 that are signed by multiple cast members. It is insane. The upstairs has additional bedrooms and another game room, which is where I'm recording right now. And the outside has a pool, a pond, and tennis courts. But the biggest thing about this place is that the house borders the facilities behind the scenes cheetah breeding center. 6 male cheetahs are visible in the distance, and 6 female cheetahs are up close. Depending on where they are in their yards, you could be roughly 20 feet from a cheetah while standing in the yard. And you can see, I've seen as many as 5 of the cats from the living room, master bathroom, including when you're in the shower, the back porch. And then if you go upstairs, you can actually see the entire center. So you could see up to 12 cats. That's right, y'all. As I am recording this, I'm actually doing it staring at multiple cheetahs. And when I did my interviews for the podcast here, we did them in this room. That's right. They came to me. And we kept getting distracted because there were cheetahs out the window being cheetahs. Now that is a vibe. And, as far as the actual facility, Tanganyika is an incredible zoo. I'm going to be talking about what makes it so different in some future interview episodes, because I think it's better to let the people here tell those stories. But I will say that the actual just zoo part of the zoo is beautiful. And it features some really cool animals like honey badgers, gibbons, mandrills, snow leopards, and clouded leopards, all kinds of good stuff. But the core of what makes Tanganyika unique, it is that it's a very experiential zoo. They offer so many incredible animal experiences that we weren't even able to do all they offer in 2 days. And I don't even think we could have crammed the rest into the third day. These encounters are all done in a super ethical way where the welfare of the animal is always the primary concern. In fact, Tanganyika limits the number of guests that are at the park at any given time, as well as limiting the number of guests that partake in the experiences, so they never have to worry about something like a rhino feeding or lorikeet walkthrough becoming problematic as hundreds of guests try to filter through in a limited amount of time. And before I go on, I should probably point out that while Tanganyika did bring me out here and comped to Zoe and I our housing and experiences and such, we did not sign any contract or anything formal like that. Other guests were able to be part of all of our experiences, and there often were those guests in the room with us. I have full freedom to say whatever I want to about this experience, and what I will say is that it has been awesome. And you're going to hear so much more about why Tanganyika chose to approach me that way and everything when we get to those interviews. Y'all are going to love the people here. So as a quick rundown, our first day's experiences included a capybara meet and greet, a behind-the-scenes tour with white rhinos and giraffes, a zebra training session, a ring-tailed lemur encounter, a giraffe feeding, those are different giraffes, and then swimming with the African penguins at the zoo. And to be clear, the penguins swim while you are in the water with them. You don't actually swim with them. If you know anything about penguin beaks or how they poop, that's actually a really good thing. We also did some feeding stations, including a pygmy hippo where you get to toss the food. You're not like reaching into a hippo mouth. And we also could have fed an Indian one-horned rhino, but she was very happy in her water and didn't feel like participating, which was totally fine. It was an insane day and actually was the less busy of the 2 days. Day 2 included a cheetah behind-the-scenes tour, a meet and greet with Asian small-clawed otters, an Australian adventure that included meeting kangaroos and kookaburras and a golden pheasant, a bat-eared fox meet and greet, a sloth behind-the-scenes experience that not only included meeting 4 sloths, but also included meeting 2 armadillos, and a meet and greet with an African crested porcupine. We also hung out with the ring-tailed lemurs again and fed giraffes again, as one does when they are at Tanganyika. And that's the thing about Tanganyika. It's all about those experiences, getting truly connected to animals in a way that makes you care more. The messaging is educational, conservational, and completely on point. The staff is made up of incredible trainers who are super knowledgeable about their animals and about training. We've had some seriously incredible chats about how and why certain behaviors were trained, and it's always been super fascinating and super detailed. They use the hashtag Connect and Preserve to explain their mission simply, and I think they do an incredible job of doing just that. It has been so cool to experience this, and I cannot wait to share so much more about this incredible facility with y'all, both on my socials and on upcoming episodes of the podcast. But that is enough about that. Let's get to Zoo News. All right, so for our headline story this week, we've done a bunch of deep stories lately, so we're going to keep it quick and fun. We have 2 more best of voting situations for, all of you that care about those. First of all, USA Today is now doing their vote for the best aquarium in the country, and you can vote for the next 16 days. Candidates include the following facilities that are friends of Rossifari: Adventure Aquarium, Aquarium of the Pacific, Georgia Aquarium, New England Aquarium, Odyssey Aquarium, and St. Louis Aquarium. And then facilities that haven't appeared on the pod yet that are nominated include Audubon Aquarium, Loveland Living Planet Aquarium, Maui Ocean Center, Monterey Bay Aquarium, Mystic Aquarium, the National Aquarium in Baltimore, Newport Aquarium, Ripley's Aquarium of the Smokies, Tennessee Aquarium, the Texas State Aquarium, the Florida Aquarium, Maritime Aquarium, Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium, and Woods Hole Science Aquarium. So good luck to all of those facilities, especially the ones that have been on the pod. And then Newsweek is also doing another poll. They're doing their best zoo in the country poll. And the facilities that are nominated there include the following friends of Rossifari: Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, Indianapolis Zoo, North Carolina Zoo, Omaha's Henry Dorley Zoo. Okay, they haven't been on yet, but we are recording in a few days. It totally counts. The St. Louis Zoo, the San Diego Zoo, and Zoo Montana. And then these facilities that haven't been on the pod yet. The Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, which was actually supposed to be on the pod. It's a long story, but we do love them. The Denver Zoo Conservation Alliance, the Houston Zoo, Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium, which is another facility that I've actually been approached about featuring on the pod and haven't been able to get out there yet, but we're totally going to, and we love them. Riverbanks Zoo and Gardens, Rolling Hills Zoo, the San Antonio Zoo, and the Living Desert Zoo. So again, good luck to all the competitors, especially the ones we're friends with. And I do have to say, I find this list kind of crazy. Okay, crazy's a stretch, but crazy. There are a lot of great facilities on the list, and I was particularly pleased to see the Desert Museum on here when I feel like it doesn't really get the national attention it deserves. But dang, no Columbus, no Cincinnati. There are a whole lot of really incredible facilities that are normally on these lists that just didn't make this one. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I think the Bronx Zoo deserves some love and attention, at least to make it to the nominees to the top 10. There are just a whole lot of really incredible facilities that are normally on these lists that just didn't make this one. So I don't know if this is just the way the editors keep it fresh year after year, or if the experts in travel that they use aren't actually experts in zoos or what, but I do find the list a little surprising. But hey, whatever. It's so awesome to see so many friends of the pod listed on both lists. And if you're into that kind of thing, you can hit up the websites for USA Today and Newsweek and go vote for your favorites. And that brings us to our births for the week. Zoo Berlin has announced the birth of an aardvark. The little one is growing quickly, as the species does, and seems to be in perfect health. Aardvarks are such weird and adorable animals, and it's very worth checking out the birth announcement. The Bronx Zoo announced the birth of a Przewalski's horse foal, which can be seen from the Wild Asia monorail as it takes riders from the streets of New York City to a tranquil bit of Asia. Given that the species was once extinct in the wild, every birth is extra exciting, so very cool to see that. The Wrocktaw Zoo in Poland has announced the birth of 4 Sumatran tiger cubs born to mother Nori and father Tenga back in July of 2024. And I know, you're wondering how the heck that is zoo news almost a year later, but it's because the zoo just announced the births, because with fewer of the species than 400 remaining in the wild, the zoo was concerned about their safety and security when the cubs were super tiny and, stealable. The 3 female and 1 male cub are doing wonderfully and have grown significantly in their time in hiding. And as a special fun bonus for their story, their father, Tenga, has been heavily involved in their care. That is not common for tiger dads, and I really like that. I also love that they were so concerned about, not having their tigers stolen, that they just didn't announce the birth. I'm sure there was some temptation because that's really exciting, but they were worried about the welfare of the animals. So nice job. Milwaukee County Zoo has announced the birth of a prehensile-tailed porcupet to Mom Quinn and Dad Seamus, which is actually slightly confusing for me because neither of those names have a quill pun in them, so I am suspicious that they might not actually be zoo-housed porcupines. I kid. But I did just hang out with the second quillium I've ever met, so there's that. But anyway, the little one can be seen in the small mammal building on the nocturnal side, so if you're in Milwaukee, go check it out. A 2-toed sloth was recently born at Stone Zoo in Boston. The little one is snuggling with mom and nursing well, so all seems to be going perfectly. Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium has announced the birth of new meerkat kits, 8 of them to be exact. Now, two different moms, Akia and Nalidi, each welcomed litters of 4 murrelets, all of which seem to be doing super well. The older 4 are already starting to pop their heads out on exhibit, and the younger 4 are still snuggling, but will be visible soon enough. And then last but not least in births, the Nashville Zoo has announced the birth of a Red River hog piglet named Chive, who was born to mom Tater. I am loving those names, but I'm not loving that Tater showed no interest in Chive. Fortunately, the care team stepped in and took amazing care of Chive. They took him to the vet center where he is now being hand-reared, and the team is just doing such a great job that he is thriving. Or should I say, chiving. Yep, you listen to this podcast. No, but I'm the one who makes it. Anyway, that moves us on to our deaths for the week. Happy Hollow Park Zoo has announced the death of Will Smith. Not the actor, but one of the red pandas that called the zoo home. Will Smith was almost 10 years old and was suffering from Addison's disease, an adrenal condition that is common in red pandas. While 10 isn't a super old age, the fact that Will made it that long while dealing with Addison's shows exactly how incredible the care he received at the zoo was. Will moved to the zoo when they first opened their red panda habitat, so he has literally been the face of red pandas at the zoo for the entire time they have had them. And I will say, when I get back to that zoo, I am going to miss seeing that little face again. A chimpanzee named Cassius has passed away at the age of 53 at the Rockhampton Zoo. He was the oldest male chimpanzee in Australasia, but began suffering from arthritis and suspected dementia recently, leading to the correct and humane decision to euthanize him. All of his keepers stayed with him until the very end, giving him treats that chimps normally wouldn't be allowed to have, and otherwise just giving him his best last day. As the leader of the troop at the zoo and a longtime resident, he had an incredible impact on the humans and chimps that spent time at the zoo, and he will be sorely missed. Suhana, a clouded leopard that called ZooAtlanta home, has passed away. Over her time at the zoo, her beloved keepers described her in many ways, including giving her the nicknames Sweet and Sour and Sour Patch Kid, and also calling her goofy, spicy, fierce, and extremely charismatic. She was 11 years old at the time of her passing, and a cause of death is unknown at this time, but they will be doing a necropsy, or have done a necropsy and are awaiting results, to find out exactly what happened. And then last but not least in this section, Chattanooga Zoo has announced the passing of Pico, the giant male anteater. Pico was featured on an episode of Rossifari, and his keepers absolutely adored him. He was incredible at guest encounters and loved relaxing and eating avocados and yogurt. When I met him, he was such a fun and curious guy, and it was so obvious how strong the bond was between him and his keepers. Sending all my love to that team. And then, moving on from births and deaths, we get to the rest of our zoo news section. So, last week, we talked about the labor situation at the San Diego Zoo, and while I don't have an update on that yet, another large facility has decided to unionize, though by a very small margin. Workers at the Monterey Bay Aquarium have officially unionized, joining AFS CME Council 57. The aquarium announced the move in a positive way, saying they look forward to negotiating in good faith and that they will continue their mission to treat their staff well. And while that's something that basically any management team needs to say when a staff decides to unionize, the fact that it was a fairly close election gives me hope that they mean it, because generally, close union elections mean that there aren't a lot of disgruntled staff. They just want to unionize. And that's great. You know, if you're not super disgruntled, still unionize. That's cool. Don't let yourself become disgruntled. Stay gruntled. Okay, that's not a word. But yeah, totally love when people stand together. Congrats to the staff at the aquarium on this decision. And I really do hope that it goes as well as the announcement from the aquarium seems to imply that it might. And another follow-up from last week, a few more facilities have embraced the AI action figure trend that we talked about last week. Now, some have done it without using AI, allowing artists at their facilities to create awesome and unique art. In particular, Mesker Park Zoo had a really amazing one that was No, I'm actually not going to spoil this one. Go check out at Mesker Zoo on socials. Trust me, you'll thank me. One of the accessories for the action figure makes the whole thing with this one. It's amazing. And on a side note, some other facilities have used AI for the trend since last week. And one in particular has not only chosen to keep their AI art posted, but when staff members complained, they basically told them not to worry about it. So then those staff members reached out to people, including myself, to ask them to put comments asking the zoo to remove the post and stop using AI, to do so nicely and to explain why. And when people did that, the zoo decided to delete those comments and leave the art up. And y'all, I just don't get it. And I'm not saying their name here yet, because I know the staff at the zoo are trying to address the behavior. And since they are trying to handle it internally, I don't want to bring pressure from the outside or anything and like cause drama, yet. Again, I'm going to say yet. But if you're listening to this and you're a PR person, don't go that route. And to those of you who listen and work at the facility in question, you definitely know what I'm talking about and who you are. Great job trying to handle this in the correct way. And hopefully your PR team maybe hears this and realizes maybe this isn't the best way to handle this. But yeah, don't love to see that. It's one thing to use AI and maybe not know that it's problematic. It's another one to ignore your team. And also to ignore, comments and to delete comments. I don't know, not a great look. So not going to throw y'all under the bus right now, but let's hope this gets addressed properly. Smithsonian's National Zoo recently shared a story about a 4-year-old Henkel's leaf-tailed gecko. The little lizard was getting a routine checkup when keepers noticed a small discolored bulge. They kept an eye on it, and when the lizard shed, the bump went away. Yay! But then it grew back, which is very unyay. And when it grew back, it also had a second growth of black spots around it. When taken to the vet, the gecko was diagnosed as having squamous cell carcinoma, a deadly form of skin cancer. But of course, this is a zoo, and all animals super duper matter. So the zoo underwent cutting-edge chemotherapy on the little guy, and he survived. And this success not only illustrates the amazing care that goes into each and every animal at good zoos, but also helps to advance reptile medicine in ways that will hopefully help save many lizards in the years to come. Love seeing those kinds of things. And speaking of cool medical treatments, Rico, the sloth at Chester Zoo, underwent a groundbreaking dental treatment recently. The vet team at the zoo had teamed up with dentists from Newcastle University to perform the first ever endodontic treatment on a two-toed sloth. The procedure went well, a fact that voluntary x-rays were obtained to confirm. Love it, love it, love it when an animal is, trained to be involved in their own medical care, right? So very cool. Congrats to the team on this revolutionary procedure, and also on being able to confirm the success by doing voluntary healthcare. Yay, all of that. Nova Wild Zoo recently had to deal with a group of delinquents breaking into the zoo and vandalizing and damaging several of the animal exhibits there. They gained access to multiple work vehicles at the park and went on joyrides through the zoo as well, causing additional damage. These 4 people caused untold amounts of damage to a zoo that is already struggling to stay afloat. And honestly, I hope they get caught. Don't go joyride through a zoo. Just don't. And then finally in this section, well, kind of finally with our main stories, the San Diego Zoo Safari Park recently shared an incredible video. Right as an earthquake started in California, it was like a 5+ on the Richter scale, the elephant herd at the zoo ran to form an alert circle, where they form a circle to protect their young and each other. After the earthquake passed, they went back to their normal lives, but seeing how they ran and how they formed that circle was really stinking impressive. And so, again, I highly recommend checking it out. And then before we leave the zoo news section, I did want to do a couple of just quick hits from stuff over the last week. So to start with, Roger Williams Park Zoo will be opening their new penguin habitat on Memorial Day weekend. The Oakland Zoo continues to be incredible when it comes to saving mountain lions and sending them off to forever homes at other zoos. Most recently, one of the rescued cubs has made its way to the Birmingham Zoo, while another one from earlier this year, it has officially been decided will be staying at the Oakland Zoo. 2 other cubs there are currently awaiting finding out where their forever homes will be. Amazing work as always. A male weedy sea dragon is carrying eggs at Shed Aquarium. This is only the second time that Shed has seen a female pass eggs to a male of the species, and in fact, this is one of the rarest things seen at aquariums worldwide, as weedy sea dragon breeding has continued to be mostly elusive in the industry. So congrats to the team at Shed. And then last but not least, in our quick hits, SeaWorld recently announced an incredible landmark. Over the past 50 years, they have helped to rescue, rehabilitate, and return to the wild an incredible 25,000 animals. Absolutely amazing. Congrats to the team at SeaWorld. And that brings us to
Stereotypical Animal Podcast theme song. Here to bring you to conservation news.
So there's a super interesting story out of Australia that I wanted to touch on at the start of this section here. The Department of Energy, Environment, and Climate is taking a step that I find kind of confusing, but then also kind of think is something we talk about on the zoo side of things a lot. So yeah, interesting. So instead of continuing my preamble, I'll just tell you about it. The department has begun culling hundreds of koalas in Booj Bim National Park in the western part of Victoria. Koala populations have obviously been struggling for a while, especially with the wildfires that have ravaged their habitats over the last few years. So the decision might seem shocking. It might sound even more shocking when I tell you the way they are culling the koalas, which is they are shooting them from helicopters. Yep. Again, the government is shooting koalas from helicopters in a national park. But here's the thing. In March, a bushfire destroyed over 5,400 acres in the park, injuring many koalas and also destroying much of the eucalyptus in the park. This has led to koalas suffering from burns and injuries associated with that, and also from starvation. So this decision is one that we talk about in zoos all the time. It's a decision to humanely euthanize the animals. Which, again, is surprising to discuss in conservation news, but, you know, we do talk about it a lot in the zoo world, right? And so given that the animals are suffering, I don't hate the euthanasia aspect of this. Now, as far as the helicopter part of it, while that is a surprising bit of the story, and while I think it is challenging to call that humane euthanasia, the government has said that it is all but impossible to reach the area by foot because of how badly impacted by fires the landscape is, and that even if you could, the koalas immediately climb up into the upper canopy of trees where they can't be reached easily, if at all. Now, I will say this story has a lot more nuance to it than I can give it in the limited time I have here. And if you're interested in them, those nuances that is, I suggest diving into the Google and reading both sides, because this really is fascinating from whatever angle you look at it from. But at the end of the day, if animals are suffering, I do support euthanasia. And if there's no better way, I guess I support euthanasia by helicopter. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want these animals suffering. But it's definitely an interesting conversation. Let me know what y'all think about this one. I'm curious. We have some good sea turtle conservation news this week, as endangered sea turtle species are showing signs of recovery in over 50% of the places they are found worldwide. A new study looks at 48 populations of sea turtles around the globe, and it found that not only are populations rising in half the world, but that threats to sea turtles, including hunting, pollution, and coastal development, are actually declining in those areas. Now, that is attributed to the successful conservation work and conservation messaging around sea turtles. So, huge win. And while this is great news overall, there are a few less good things in the study. Leatherback populations are not seeing the rebound that other species are, and species in the Pacific are faring less well than species in other oceans. And speaking of Pacific Ocean populations not doing well, the Trump administration has opened up commercial fishing in one of the largest ocean reserves in the world for the first time in over a decade. This area of the Pacific is filled with coral atolls and is populated by sea turtles and whales that are endangered and like all kinds of crazy fish and stuff. This is a huge threat to the fragile ecosystem in the area, and the damage done there in even just 1 year of commercial fishing could be irreversible in our lifetimes. The crazy thing about this is all of it, but in this case in particular, this area has not only been protected for a long time, but it has been bipartisan protection. It was actually originally protected by President George W. Bush, and then the area of protection was expanded by President Obama. This action was done by executive order, of course, and Trump has issued a second executive order directing the Commerce Department to loosen regulations for commercial fishing, and has also asked the Interior Department to conduct a review of all protected marine lands and recommend which ones they think should be open to commercial fishing. The commercial fishing that will be less regulated. Yeah, sometimes I hate it here. And then last but not least in conservation news, another kind of sad story. Well, no kind of about it. At least 50 hippos have been killed by suspected anthrax poisoning in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And this is the same area that had an anthrax poisoning outbreak back in 2001. And officials are saying that the outbreak is currently being contained. And in case you're like me and are confused by this, since you only know of anthrax poisoning as a thing like people do, and there was a whole thing in the US government a while ago and stuff, it turns out that anthrax is a naturally occurring bacteria that can poison wildlife. And when it does, the anthrax basically takes over the body of the animal it poisons and turns the corpse into an anthrax production factory, basically makes it an anthrax bomb. And so when anthrax claims one hippo, it can quickly spread to other animals in the area, including other hippos, and 50 hippos means a whole lot of anthrax. So it's good to think that officials, seem to think that they have the outbreak under control. But I'm very sad about those hippos. But that brings us to...
It's time for other news. It's time for other news. Hey, now, right now, it's time. It's time for other news. Hey, it's a segue to the part called other news.
With funding cuts related to research happening all over the spectrum in the United States, more and more places are sharing stories of how various forms of scientific research have led to discoveries that were unexpected and are helpful. For instance, did you know that Ozempic, the diabetes medicine that is being used to help people lose weight around the world, was discovered while studying Gila monster venom? That venom contains exindin-4, a peptide that works similarly to GLP-1 in humans. And GLP-1 is a hormone that regulates blood sugar, slows down digestion, and helps with feelings of fullness. And if not for the studies into the Gila monster venom, that connection would not have been made, and Ozempic and the like would not be used today to treat obesity. And that happens all the time. So frequently, the research that is being done fails, but in the process actually discovers something else that is incredible and changes the world. Which is why, we should fund research. But that brings us to...
Oh, animal,
April is Ape Awareness Month and National Frog Month. And then for the week, we've got World Penguin Day and Arbor Day, which fall on the 25th. The 26th is, get ready for this, Audubon Day, International Flamingo Day, World Veterinary Day, and National Go Birding Day. The 27th is Crow and Raven Day, Hyena Day, World Tapir Day, and Pet Parents Day. The 28th is Save the Frogs Day, and the 30th is Adopt a Shelter Pet Day. And I can't help but notice that there is nothing on the 29th, but there are 4 days each on the 26th and 27th. This will never not drive me crazy, but those are your animal holidays for the week, and also your last animal holidays for April. And there you have it, folks. Another episode of Rossifari Zoo News is in the books. I'd like to take a moment to thank my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, and Kevin Williams. Oh, and speaking of stickers, wait until you see this month's stickers. You're going to be really excited about the animal. I promise you that. And don't forget, if you want to know about these stickers and find out what's going on here, you can support the pod for as little as $3 a month, or even sign up for a free membership, which doesn't have much, but has some, by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. That's where you get those exclusive stickers. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed to Zoo News this week, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Dr. Laura Schenk, Matt Patford, Becca Robinson, Dr. Natalie Taco, Sam Evans, Jacob Zinn, Ann Yoshioka, Anna McEachran, Marissa Fonseca, Marianne Rossi, Daniel Cohen,
Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky,
Bethany Frymark, Nikki Morley, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Jay Meredith, Rowena White, Kristen Khalil, Michael Sebastian, Nancy Fetters, Lynn Vesley Gross, and Sarah Gilsol. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Love y'all. We'll be back here on Tuesday with a brand new episode of the Interview Persuasion. And then we'll be back here on Friday for another episode of Zoo News. But until then, remember, friends, the words Newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yiswen.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari, or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.
Workers at Monterey Bay Aquarium have officially unionized, joining AFSCME Council 75. Nope, 57. Dang it! When did I become number dyslexic?